So souvenirs are now craftable in CS2 as of 2 days ago with the beginning of Stage 1 Cologne 2026. And with this and the souvenir trade-up update, a lot of panic has surrounded the souvenir market, causing a ton of prices to drop. And some of these price drops are more justifiable than others, because at the end of the day, every single collection that did have a souvenir package has now been discontinued. So we are going to find the ones that got disproportionately hurt, the ones that shouldn't have went down as much as they did, and ones that you could take advantage of before they go back to where they were. Because in time, like every other discontinued thing ever, it will go back to where it was. So we went through every collection, we got the supply numbers on each one, we figured out the prospective numbers of each one, if all trade-ups happen, etc, etc. Let's run the numbers and find the one that is the best play. Speaking of Cologne, we are co-streaming the major. Not going to do it every day, however, maybe the first day of each stage. Stage 3 in the playoffs, I'll start to do it more often. Tune in if you are wanting to watch the major. Get into it maybe a little bit. It's a little bit better to look at this now because the market has recovered a little bit, which means panic is gone for the most part, and we can actually look at it rationally. And I think it's important to note that with souvenirs gone, while we can trade up the existing ones, which does make it active for maybe a couple of months, they are now discontinued, right? Souvenir drops, while their odds may be worse, they do give you the skin, they do supply the skin, and now they're equal in utility with being able to trade them up. But even before that, the utility was the skin itself for the reds like the Gold Arabesque, the Desert Hydra, etc. So this did pose a hindrance on prices regardless. So now that we stop having these regular drops that you're expected to have every major, this actually poses a better outlook for every single collection in the future. Because not only are we not getting new souvenir packages, we're not getting any new incoming supply period from these majors, which previously could have been upwards of probably 3 to 5 million per major if I had to take an estimate. So now all of these collections are actually finite. And a lot of people got the wrong idea from this update. They thought that Valve was fucking with things that were once sacred, previously untouched collections. But as long as there are cases available, there is always going to be incoming supply. Anyone with a case can open up the Karambit Blue Gem Case Hardened. Anyone with a Dust 2 souvenir package can open up a Souvenir Factory New Arabesque. Anyone with a Cobblestone package can open up another Dragon Lore. So cutting off all new cases from coming in and being purchased does stop that supply incoming. If anything, they doubled down on the collectible angle of these skins. It's just that their supplies now reflect their souvenir and normal supplies, which is fair enough. It actually makes Norse, Top Shop, older collections a little bit more rare relative because they don't have these collections that bump up their supply artificially. So when people read into Valve's lawsuits and say that they're going to get rid of trading or they're going to bring back old collections, if anything, it goes right back to what they were talking about with the New York AG lawsuit, how all their older collections are treated as collectibles. If anything, this doubles down on that sentiment. Now we are going to cover on the current actively dropped before this major collections, but there were older ones like Lake, Safe House, Old Nuke, Old Dust 2, Old Mirage that were souvenirs and have been hurt by this new souvenir update because people can now make a Glock Candy Apple, which was $3 factory new, $1,300 souvenir factory new, just souvenir with 20 bucks. Those ones got hurt floor price wise, but I don't think the older prices are going to go down necessarily, right? The headlines may show you, oh, look at the Glock Candy Apple, it went from $1,300 to $10. But anyone in their right mind is going to pay $10 for the Cologne ones. They're going to pay the same $1,300 that was the market price beforehand. So you can't really look at the floor price with these things anyway. They're so low supply that I think the people that are in the market for that know that. So that doesn't really bother me, and we're not going to touch on those collections anyway. They're very few and far between. Some things definitely got hurt a little bit, right? The Souvenir Factory New Nitro, even though it's still one of one and it always will be, the fact that there are other ones in existence kind of just hurts the allure of it in the first place, because it's not necessarily a beautiful, amazing looking skin. So I do think that'll hurt the price of it, but it will still be as demanded as it was before. It's still a collectible. So we're going to go over the 10 that actually matter. Nuke 2018, Inferno 2018, Train 2025, Overpass 2024, Dust 2 21, Mirage 21, Vertigo 21, Ancient, and Anubis. And with those 10 collections, we do have to split them up into two separate groups because they do have some key differences that we cannot ignore. And that's because they have different rarity tiers. Every collection, every case has rarity tiers. We know this. They usually go from blue to red in a case, but in a collection, they tend to vary. But before I tell you where that answer starts, a quick word from our sponsor, Skins.com. Skins.com is the newest sponsor on our channel. They have just released a P2P trading platform looking to compete with the best players in the space. If you don't want to wait that long, they do have an insta-sell feature on the site in which the rates are the best I've seen, just straight up. When the market is down, everything is on sale. And with the deals you're getting on Skins.com, you could start your position basically up 20 to 25%. Try out Skins.com and be a part of the future of CS2 skin trading. I will have a code soon, so stay tuned for that. And of course, we have a giveaway here for an Ursus Knife Marble Fade in Factory New. Go on my Twitter for a little bit more information there. All right, boys, if you're an OG. For some collections, they go from gray to pink. From some, they go from gray to red. From others, they go from light blue to red. So we have to differentiate them because this will have something to do with our souvenir numbers and the number of prospective reds we can get from each respective collection. Like Nuke and Inferno, these were actively dropped. They were not in a collection or an operation as most of these map collections were, and active drops tend to go from gray to pink. Therefore, if you trade up the grays from these two collections, you only have to take those grays to a pink, not a red, which saves you quite a bit and gives you a lot more pinks than you would have reds had there been a full spectrum of rarities in these two collections. The same thing happens with Train and Overpass, but it's shifted a little bit, right? You start with light blues, there's no grays in these two collections as they were featured in the armory. Therefore, you have to do the same amount of steps you would have to from the Nuke and Inferno collections, just shifted over to the right one. But it does definitely make a difference. If you took two collections, one from gray to red and one from light blue to red, and you opened 1 million of each case, assuming everything is fair, you would end up with 1,200 reds and 200 reds, just from adding that gray tier. So while Train 2025 and while Overpass 2024 do have low souvenir numbers and they really aren't going to make that big of a dent, it's going to make a larger dent than you would expect because they got rid of the gray tiers in these two respective collections. So these are the 4 collections that have a little bit of nuance to them, and as long as we take those into account, we can then normalize them with the other 5 collections which function the full spectrum, and that is where we will start. Mirage and Dust 2. These were the ones that caused the most amount of panic by their respective holders because they did have tons of souvenir collections. Mirage had 7 million, roughly, regular guns and 17 million, roughly, souvenir guns in their respective supplies. Dust 2 the same, albeit less, because Dust 2 had 5 million and roughly 10 million souvenirs. And that's because I believe it had 1 or 2 less majors played, so accordingly, less souvenir packages opened for those 2 majors. Or 1, I'm not sure. Now, the one saving grace Mirage has to Dust 2, even though Dust 2 has less overall packages opened, is that the Mirage collection does have the Deagle Fennec Fox. Now, the Deagle Fennec Fox is an end in and of itself, as opposed to Dust 2, which really doesn't have that really nice pink that would drive demand towards that, stop trade-ups from going up to the Gold Arabesque. Right? It just has that Scout and that UMP fade. The Deagle does provide some supply drain on the top rarity because you aren't going to trade up those Deagles. That's too expensive. You're going to opt for that MP5. So it's good for the MP5 in a way because that'll be the one that people trade up to. So getting low float of those might be good in the future. People chasing Desert Hydras. But if any 2 collections deserve to get hurt in terms of price point, it was these 2 collections. For the amount of supply they had, both souvenir and normal, before the normal trade-up update, the regular ones held such high value compared to the other ones for no real reason, right? Other people just scraped off stickers off the souvenir ones. So, if anything, their price going down was the most justified. But of course, these are the most demanded, so they might have the best prospects of going up the quickest in the future. Vertigo was rare and it still is rare. It had 1.4 million regular supply, 1.4 million souvenir supply, so it effectively doubled. But doubling sounds scarier than it is because the starting supply was very, very low, right? The souvenir supply is 1/10 of the Mirage supply. The skins in here just aren't too demanded, so it is worrying a little bit about how that double of supply will hurt the price. Probably will drive it down a little bit in the short term, but this will be a rare collection one day, something to keep your eye on at least. The 5.7 seems like the best one to hold because it does have an odd float cap. It starts at 0.02, I believe. So Factory New in and of itself is going to be a little bit harder, but using it as a trade-up filler is going to be really good. You can also get minimal wear ones because it does start at 0.02. Anubis hurt the least in terms of incoming supply because it had a larger than normal regular supply of around 17 million. This was because the Anubis collection package was originally just offered in the store outright for, I believe, $2.99. But even with that exorbitant supply, which is basically on par with Overpass 2024 in the armory, Overpass is light blue to red, Anubis was gray to red, meaning that the amount of Eye of Horuses out there are actually much less overstated. The incoming Souvenirs shouldn't really have drove down price too much because of just how rare the Eye of Horus is in general. Anubis should be fine long term. Nuke and Inferno were probably artificially high before this. Their incoming Souvenir supply is about 1/80th of their normal supply because they were actively dropped. They both have around 80 million active drops. So they had big numbers to begin with, and it seemed to do nothing to the price action overall. Control panel M4, the Tech 9 remote control, these were steadily climbing upwards before this update. They dropped nearly 60%. So a 60% decrease in price due to like maybe a 1.5 to 2% increase in supply. Maybe. Best case scenario is definitely a little bit crazy. If these prices start to recover across all of these collections, Nuke and Inferno are probably the biggest winners. More so Nuke than Inferno, because just the M4 Tech 9 are a little bit better than the dualies and the SG553. If anything from Inferno, the MP7 Fade might be the best one to go there, or the AK Safety Net. For Nuke, the M4 control panel, factory new, it was extremely cheap. It hasn't recovered totally yet, but it definitely has recovered a little bit. The AWP Acheron, which is a blue AWP, Glock Nuclear Garden, would ignore now if you don't have one already. Ancient is on that same storyline as Vertigo. Vertigo has really low supply. Ancient kind of has the same thing. It's just 3 million and 3 million as opposed to 1.5 and 1.5. The skins in this collection are pretty good. They have received a lot of attention due to different types of pumps. We've effectively doubled the number of each one, but the number is still not that high. We have a total supply of 6 million. This one does pose a similar positive like the Mirage 2021 collection, because the Desert Eagle in Mirage is so demanded on its lonesome that it's not going to pose as a good trade-up filler because it is so expensive. The AK Panthera Anka poses that same benefit, meaning that all of the trade-up demand is going to fall on the other pink in the collection, the P90 Run and Hide. That will function like the MP5 Oxide Oasis in the Mirage 2021 collection. Also, very nicely, just like the Train 2025 collection, which we'll speak about in a second, the Ancient collection has 2 pinks, 1 red, all 3 of them, all 0 to 1. This is why the factory new Welcome to the Jungle was reaching upwards of $5,000 to $6,000 even before this update, because it just was simply super rare. And it's going to continue to be rare even with the incoming supply of factory new P90 Run and Hides. There's maximum probably like 2,000 if I had to take a guess. Once again, this update helps Train 2025 because before this we were expecting Train to have Souvenirs incoming for most of its lifespan. Then it got removed from the active map pool, which was great before we knew about this Cologne 2026 situation. Then it gets discontinued in the Armory and it gets discontinued in the Major. It does have a higher supply because it was in the Armory, but it's still around 9 million. Overpass is 17 million. The Fever Case is 30 million. Sport and Field is probably around 30 million as well. So if you just pay attention to the supply numbers there, it's fine. So it's now a discontinued, completely closed off collection after it gets removed from the Armory about 2 years from now. So realistically, that reactionary selling and panic across all of these collections and across the entire market was a little bit unjustified, and it posed itself a pretty decent buying opportunity. The only ones with a real case to go down were Mirage and Dust 2, and they definitely were justified in going down, but they definitely do have upside to go back up in the future. Once the grays and light blues that were circulating become traded up to and eventually reach Desert Hydra, some of them, it realistically won't add more than 2,000 to 3,000 to the supply, if maybe. We have to assume that not all of these grays are in circulation anymore. These were junk for years at a time. There are plenty of dormant accounts, I guarantee you. In fact, these gray souvenirs, light blue souvenirs, even blue souvenirs, they were probably and realistically the only things left that could realistically be in dormant accounts that no one's coming back to. The knife trade-up update brought people back to their inventories, maybe. This one is not going to do that. It was not as big of a deal as the knife trade-up update, but it did pose the same market instability, which just provided a nice, smaller scope way to get in if you wanted to play skin or just to buy anything in general. Winners, Ancient is going to be good. If you got a good price in on Ancient, you'll be fine there. The P90 Run and Hide, the AK Panthera Anka, obviously don't buy the red. It doesn't have any way to drain its supply, but if you buy those fillers, you should have been fine. Vertigo the same way. It's a little bit rarer, so you're going to have to wait a little bit longer because the demand is just simply not there, which is reflected in its supply already. Right? People can open those cases, but the fact that they didn't and it only had a 1.5 million supply means that it isn't simply demanded. Out of the two, Overpass is fucked more than Train by a complete landslide because it's going to stay in the Armory even when that rotation happens. Train got a blessing by having its supply shut off completely even after it gets removed from the armory, so that's great for the long-term supply of that collection specifically. And once you actually take into account the amount of inactive supply from these souvenir collections that are going to never be used regardless of this update coming to fruition, then I think the market will price that in and prices will start to recover for these collections specifically. But the biggest winners are always and were always going to be the older collections that do not have souvenir collections. If anything, this just equalized it and made things actually fair, because Dust 2 having 50 million fucking thousand supply and the Chop Shop collection having 1/10 of the supply, yet prices being somewhat similar doesn't really make sense, and it's unfair because people were opening souvenir collections, but the prices for the normal collection were equaling older collections that had just simply less supply. This makes supply equal for souvenir and regular guns, which is how it always should have been, to be fair. So now relatively, Norse, Chop Shop, Gods and Monsters, old collections actually mean something now. They're actually rare compared to all of these other collections, which just really posed as rare because they were rare technically, but all their souvenirs didn't really make them rare after all, really. If anything, some collections got a little bit healthier. Vertigo got a little bit healthier. Cobblestone definitely got a little bit healthier because some of these old useless grays are now going to become purples and blues, and maybe a couple M4 Knights will come out of it. Yes, you'll get a couple more Dragon Lords. Will it drive down the price? Probably not if player bases continue to just generally increase. An extra 50 Dragon Lords over the next 10 years is not going to really do anything. Souvenirs may hurt, but again, if you're in the souvenir market for an old souvenir from 2014, you're definitely going to pay attention to the stickers on them regardless, so I don't think the prices should drive down too much. It will drive down a little bit because obviously they're just, that rarity aspect is gone, but in the grand scheme of things, it really shouldn't drive down pricing too much. So that's your takeaways. I think you should just go for the older collections, play skins that you always wanted, take advantage of the market being down right now. I do think buying a Desert Hydra or a Gold Arabesque at this point in time is probably one of the better prices you'll be able to get it at for the foreseeable future because supply is now shut off. Simple as that. There's no one opening souvenir packages right now on day 3 of the major, spamming them open, trying to get a Gold Arabesque or a Desert Hydra. Right, they have to go to the market and buy one now or buy an overpriced souvenir package on the community market. So of course, that number of instances of them coming in is going to go down. As long as you're able to ignore that fucking noise, look at the numbers and make educated decisions for yourself, you are always going to be fine. And now all the older collections that if you bought into are now actually rare. And if anything, it looks better. The future looks better and not bleaker for these old collections because they're discontinuing old shit. Obviously, don't put all your eggs in one basket, take out a $5,000 loan for M4 Hellishes, but it does look good for us right now. Stop being a bitch and everything will be fine. Cheers.